So with Manchester United, they're not in any European competition, so it's all focus on the Premier League. What can be achieved, do you think? I mean, we don't want to get carried away. It's Carrick's first game in charge. But if they play like that, they could give these teams a real run for their money, starting with Arsenal.
Well, they're in a good position. They're in fifth place, and that's why they've got every reason to be optimistic. So now there's a new kind of atmosphere, a new spirit of togetherness, which is always the basis. And you know, looking back on Ruben Amorim, you know, he didn't leave this club in a really, really bad position. That's why it's a good place to be in. However, they know the competition is a tough one. There are so many teams in there, clearly above them, but even below them, that can beat them at any given day. But maybe the change in management came at the right time, because, as you just said, they can focus now on qualifying for Europe, qualifying for Champions League. That's where the club belongs to. Let's be honest. You know, I'm the same. You know, having played against them back in the days, Man United, you just did not want to play them because they're just brutal, and they want to win at any cost. And yeah,
and the fans are desperate for them to get back.
They are,
aren't they?
They absolutely are, and that feel-good factor is returned, albeit for one game. But they'll be looking at those next games and thinking, put Arsenal aside for a moment, they'll be looking and thinking Everton and I think it was West Ham maybe away. 2 winnable games. The rest are at home. They'd always expect to win their home games. So there's potential of a lot of points. And then the team that will be worried the most are Arsenal, because Manchester United, Arsenal traditionally is competitive. I think Arsenal would much rather it was Manchester United of 3 weeks ago that were coming to the Emirates, rather than this new, rejuvenated, energetic, confident Manchester United, who will make it a much more difficult task for Arsenal to win the game than probably they were expecting a few weeks back.
Now, it's not too often I'm sat here saying Manchester City, no win in 4. And then we also saw Haaland getting subbed off just before the end of the match. Not very often we see that either.
No, we don't. And having watched Man City this season, you think they look different this season. And I think Haaland is one example. I mean, as brilliant as he is, you know, one of the best strikers in the world for sure. But then you look at Donnarumma. Donnarumma is very different type of goalkeeper that Pep is used to. You know, he doesn't start the play. He's not the 11th outfield player that he had his predecessor, Ederson was. And that's why the style of players changed. I remember them playing against Arsenal. They had a lot less possession, which is so, unseen of, really, that he's become more pragmatic, Pep, in his approach, and it doesn't seem to fit in there. So they're winning games. Sometimes they look their usual self. And then the next week, you know, they look off and they lose games. So I think this is a really the perfect season for Arsenal, because there isn't any other team that you can think that can really be that close, because they're all inconsistent, including Manchester City.
With Manchester City's business in January, however, and Guéhi, of course, about to join, they could be a real threat, because we've seen what they can produce when they're at their best. And we always said that they were the closest challengers to Arsenal, but it's surprising to see them not win in 4.
It is, and I think they're fighting their way back into the title race. They're trying everything they can. Pep's trying to bring people in, move people around, but maybe trying to stop them, the opposition, bringing Guéhi, make sure they're better at the back. But at the top end of the pitch, I mean, I think Haaland scored 1 in 7 now, despite them, you know, no wins in 4. 1 win in 7 from open play. How often could we say that? Manchester City are a team that create chances, and Erling Haaland takes them. I'm not sat here thinking, well, he's missed a lot of big chances lately. Manchester City are struggling to make him the big chances, and that is what will be alarming for Pep Guardiola. They've always been able to break teams down and create chances, be patient, stretch the opposition. And at the moment, I just think teams have maybe just found a way of nullifying them, making it difficult for them. And certainly Manchester United this weekend and the previous weekends from other teams have got the benefit.
When we talk about the title race and the race for Champions League football, what would be considered as a good finish for Manchester City, a team that have won the title so many times under Pep, including 4 in a row? It feels like anything but winning it isn't enough for them, which is high standards, of course.
Well, I'd say they still try their best to win the title, because I don't think Arsenal has had a slip up yet this season. It looks very consistent. They look solid, but it's only 6 points away from Man City. Anton Semenyo, he looks obviously a very good signing. He's had a brilliant season at Bournemouth so far. So maybe he could be that player that changes a lot of things, where it's not easy to pick up just Haaland and say, OK, there aren't many players that can score goals. But it'll be interesting. And of course, the pressure is on Arsenal. Everybody knows, you know, they're the ones that go ahead. I still love watching every weekend and see what's going to happen, because this season is probably more interesting than ever before.
Okay, right. Oh, frosty from Unai Emery there. Well, we know how significant the match was in terms of they did have an opportunity, didn't they, to maximise on the fact that Arsenal would drop points. They didn't manage to do it. They have a really good home record as well. What did you make of Villa's performance? Don't worry, we'll come to Everton as well in a minute.
I thought Aston Villa did okay. I think on another day they take their chances. It could have been a different afternoon, but it wasn't to be. I am surprised at the level of frustration Unai Emery's sort of made evident there. I think that over the course of a season, there are going to be some results that don't go your way. There's no doubt about that. That's what Premier League football is all about. And having had a stretch where you've won 11 straight games on the run at your home ground, there might come a moment where something doesn't go your way. And I thought that was a lot more sort of emotion and frustration than I was expecting to see. I thought he'd just say, it wasn't our day. We're in the title. We're third in the league, and we'll move on. But he was very adamant to point out that they're probably only competing for top 5. He was adamant to point out that that they're not in the title race. That things ain't going. I was just surprised by. I mean, that was probably immediately after the game, before he's had a chance maybe to compose himself. But yeah, it surprised me that.
Maybe in the context of the fact that this weekend the teams around them had dropped points, maybe he thought that was a really good opportunity to just cement second or just cement that top 4 place?
Yeah, it was interesting to listen to him just now, because obviously he said, no, we're not a top 5 team. And then being asked that question, what does it take? And he sort of doesn't give that answer. You could tell there's a lot of emotions going through his body, his mind, but he doesn't want to speak up. I mean, there's another manager who spoke up this weekend, which we might come to later. But I think he just controlled himself, but it took a lot for him to not say what he really meant, because I don't think he wanted to blame his players, because they played well enough, but they were unlucky today. But I think there was some other reason that he didn't want to come out with, and I'd be curious to know what that is, whether he's going to blame the club for not spending more money, for selling Daniel Marlin, a striker who could have played today.
Who significantly scored today as well.
Scored today. I think it'll be along them lines of, I think the frustration of how can I keep this team and this squad moving forward, potentially being in a title race, seriously being in a top 4 race or Champions League race, if you keep moving all my players on. They had Duran at the start of last season, let him go. Okay, they brought in Rashford and Asensio, but only on the short term. That covered it for the end of last season.
Links with Tammy Abraham.
Yeah, then they didn't go, and now you're Marlon, and now Marlon's gone. It must be difficult if you feel like you need to be moving forward and you don't feel like that is the same thought process from everyone around you. Yeah,
and that you could tell from that interview. And I think also managers tend to say we are not a top 5 team or we're not challenging, but actually that's generally, isn't it, to take pressure off the players, because really they could quite easily finish in the top 4, given their form this season.
Well, we've all seen it. He's there, and he's there because they deserve it. They've been brilliant all season. Today was frustrating, it's annoying for him, of course. And I think he wants to find that balance. He doesn't want to say we want to win the Premier League to add additional pressure. But of course, deep inside, he wants to be successful. He's won trophies, European trophies. He talks about getting the club back into the Champions League. And I'm sure, back of his mind, he wants even more, but doesn't want to say publicly. There was frustration there. And I have to admit, the club has supported him from day one. They've given him as much as possible. So I'd be surprised if he'd criticised the club right now.
And I know Leon is itching to talk about the Everton goal, so come on, talk us through it.
No, I mean, for everybody's good day, everyone's bad day, frustrating for Aston Villa. It was a great day for Everton. I thought Everton's performance was terrific. They did their homework. David Moyes talked about that in his post-match interview, trying to...
In the table, goalkeeper there, should he have parried it, should have pushed it away a little bit?
I'd say so, yeah. Leon just said there were 3 mistakes, in a short space of time. And to me, the goal kind of summed up Everton's performance. I don't think it was the most beautiful goal. I mean, the finish was excellent. But the way it all started from a goal kick from Jordan Pickford, and then, some mistakes from Villa, but the Everton players, they were there when they needed to be there. And that's how they score a goal. It's, like I said, it's not going to be a goal of the month, I guess. But that's all it took to be resilient today, to know exactly what Villa is trying to do and stop them, stop them from going through the middle. And everybody worked so hard, and then the moment came and they were there.
And Everton have been very struck by absentees, AFCON and injuries, and not the biggest of squads. So to get basically every player that you had available and fit on the pitch, and to have that level of performance and that quality delivered for David Moyes. I mean, you could hear in his words, he was a very, very happy man.
He was indeed. Okay, let's...
The title race is heating up. Fire soccer ball and Arsenal are starting to pull away. After another big result, the Gunners now sit 7 points clear, sending a clear message to their rivals. Ashley Young and Jamie Redknapp break down Arsenal's performance against Manchester United, analyzing the intensity, tactical discipline, and mentality that's driving this impressive run at the top of the table. With pressure mounting on the chasing pack flush face, every game now feels decisive. The panel debates whether Arsenal have one hand on the title, what this gap means psychologically, and how United's performance reflects their own struggles this season. One thing is certain: momentum is firmly with Arsenal, and the title race may be slipping out of reach for everyone else. Eyes Fire Soccer Ball.